Welcome in, everybody. We are here for another Kickin' It. My name is Jeff Woody. I'm here with Grant Mahoney. We are brought to you by Kelderman Manufacturing, kelderman.com. We're getting to the point where we might be getting to planting. It was 80 yesterday. We're recording this on Monday. It was 80 yesterday. It's now 40 outside. Hopefully your plants aren't dying. But if you do get to the point where you're getting ready to get planting, you need some machinery, you need some custom stuff, kelderman.com. Grant, how are you doing, buddy?
I'm doing well, man. It was a beautiful weekend. Nice, great weather.
7,000 mile an hour winds.
Yeah. Yep. No, it sure was. My dog's birthday was on Sunday, so we celebrated him accordingly.
Happy birthday.
Yes.
Happy birthday.
Winston, he's 4.
Oh, nice. I have 2 dogs. The older dog, her gotcha day was on Saturday.
Excellent.
Yeah. His little got her from a farm. She was, her mom was a herding dog with this guy's actual like livestock.
Oh, wow.
And he kept her like intact. And the neighbor's Doberman just knocked her up. So this guy just has puppies that he doesn't want and put them on Craigslist for $75.
Wow.
And we drove down, got to see the farm, got to see mom in action. And he was like, I don't want these puppies. I need this dog to actually do work. So I got a puppy.
So what brand? I guess brand. What kind of
what brand is she?
Breed, I mean.
Kmart.
Yes.
So she is, her mom was half Blue Heeler, half Great Pyrenees. Very interesting. And then dad, purebred Doberman. So she's like 50% Doberman, 25% Blue Heeler, 25% Great Pyrenees. Can't tell there's any Great Pyrenees in there. So she's mostly Blue Heeler and Doberman.
Sounds like a beautiful dog.
She's beautiful. Sheds like a son of a bitch.
I bet.
Or a daughter of a bitch. Tis technically that's true.
Yeah.
Today we have Tim Fitzgerald from 247. And we're going to talk K-State. We're going to talk a little bit of Jerome Tang. We're going to get into, we recorded this already. The end of this interview is bonkers.
Fascinating.
Bonkers. It's, I mean, if you, I don't know if it's like, it's not necessarily like a child warning because it's, I don't know necessarily what it is, but like if you don't want to have too many questions asked, like of, well, why did this happen? What did this happen? Then maybe like just save that for when you're driving by yourself because it's not inappropriate. It's just like deep conversation.
I feel like the kind of drills children are going through in school.
Yeah, that's true.
That's
true. Anyway, it's wild, the end of this one. But before we get to Tim Fitzgerald, wanted to say like a heartfelt congratulations to one of like the most earnest, nicest people in media that either one of us has ever gotten to work with. Congratulations to Randy Peterson on 50 years of working for the Register, announcing his retirement. Like, and I mean this only like half kidding. I wouldn't like either the press room or the press box. If it was the Randy Peterson press box, like, or press room, I wouldn't be mad at all. Like I would sign a thing if we can get it named to be Randy Peterson. And I'm not one for living memorials because you never know what a person's true intentions are until all the dust is settled on all of their records. But Randy is, I mean, with what he's gone through with his family, he's, I mean, he himself has battled, disease and come back from it. He's never missed a day of work. He is like the truest East Sider of like absolute salt of the earth. Will tell you you're being an idiot if you're being an idiot, and will tell you you're doing great if you're doing great. Is just the nicest person. So congratulations to Randy Peterson. Everybody loves Randy.
Yep. He obviously, been there for 50 years. So he covered us when we played. And I feel like no matter who the coach is at every like pregame, postgame, whatever the conference is, it's always, all right, Randy, lead us off.
First one is always, question. And everybody's
Yep.
always smiling. No matter what the situation is, they're going to go, Randy, because they know that Randy's going to hit him with a question that's actually well thought out.
Or one that's like digging at like, Randy, we know what you're trying to get to.
Yep. That's it. Like one of those, like he's going to ask a question. He's a professional. I mean, I love Randy Peterson. God bless him. And
yep.
I don't know what I don't know what he's going to do in retirement, but it's going to be interesting.
Probably crochet.
Randy, definitely a big crochet guy.
If he wants to get into beekeeping, I know a guy. Me.
Is that yourself?
That's me.
Yep.
B class week 6 of 6 wraps up this Thursday. Don't even talk about it, but I'm pumped to get going.
Mahoney bees.
That's right. Mahoney bees.
Honey. You
get it? Mahoney bees _
honey.
Follow my journey on Instagram. Mahoney bees _.
The second thing, you got anything else on Randy?
I was going to continue talking about bees. No,
I didn't have anything like any specific Randy story that I could come up with.
The only Randy story I do have where I'm like, God damn it, Randy. Kansas State, they blocked my PAT 2009. 2010, come back and he asked me the same question, or he asked me a question. Hey, did you know this guy was out that game? The guy who blocked the PAT. I looked at him like, Randy, no, I don't have a roster. I didn't look at their injury report. Oh, I don't even know who the guy was. Oh, this guy was out this game. So that's the only time I really had like a Randy, that's a clown question, bro. Type of.
But Randy
moment.
is, and he just said it with a smirk too. Like I'm sure it was like
just right away, like first person. Great, did you know this guy was out?
Yeah,
Randy, I don't know who you're talking about. You blocked your PAT last year. And I was like, oh well.
That's
no,
cool.
No, Randy, go fly a kite, dude.
Yeah, that's cool. I don't have necessarily a Randy Peterson story. I just know that like because so he grew up on the like he was an East Sider, like lived
I didn't know that.
on the east side of Des Moines. I went to Southeast Polk, so like I lived in Pleasant Hill, Pleasant Hill is split into Southeast Polk and Des Moines East districts, and so he would every once in a while come cover my games, and like when I was started at Iowa State, like you trot out for interviews and whatever, and you're a local enough guy that people ask you questions. And Randy was always so kind to be able to like ask questions. And I think one of the things and Chris Mortensen is another guy. So Chris Mortensen recently passed away after a long battle with cancer.
ESPN reporter.
And what the stories that people talk about with Chris Mortensen is the same feeling that I get with Randy Peterson, but Randy's obviously still alive and kicking, just being a sassy East Sider. But the thing that is great is that what I feel makes a reporter great is when they click the thing off and they're not recording anymore, that they're not just interested in you for the story, that they actually want to build a relationship with you. And, perhaps it's just selfishly, it gets you a better source, but it's also just, hey, how's everything going? Like I've been doing this thing for 35 years by the time you got to Iowa State. How's your camp? I've interviewed enough guys. I know sometimes this can be hard, especially if you're a walk-on. How are you doing? Like that kind of question Randy would ask, and like he'll help anybody. I mean, just I don't know. I don't have one specific Randy story, but I just known Randy for a long time, for probably 20 years. Kudos, Randy. The second thing I wanted to get to is the more pressing thing, because we're going to talk a lot of men's basketball with Tim. The women, what a season.
They had a 4-game season that they had written down, that Finland had written down. They said, hey, if we go 3-4,
or 3 out of 4, yeah.
If we win 3 out of 4, like where we want to be, they go 4 for 4.
4 for 4. And not only do they go 4 for 4, they win on Saturday. They win in Manhattan against the third-ranked team in the conference, third place team in the conference, Kansas State, and they get a season sweep against the Kansas State Wildcats. Who would have thought that this team, by the time they got to here, would be in the position they are? The 4th seed in the Big 12 tournament, they get the double bye to be able to play on Saturday. Like that is such an amazing result. And Emily Ryan's coming back for next year.
That's awesome.
So
That's huge.
Portal dependent. I don't know who's going to be coming, who's going to be going. You lose Bellinger and you lose Naidu, but everybody else comes back, I think. But I don't know who's coming, who's going. But the core nucleus of this team will very likely be back. And there's still obviously the Big 12 tournament and the NCAA tournament, so it's not like you can retrospectively exclusively look backwards on this team. But like looking forwards is fun.
Yeah, and Audie Crooks, man, she was a dog when she got here, and she just has continued to be a dog, and she's gotten used to the physicality of the Big 12, and it's just imposing her will on anybody. And that's Ioka Lee is one of the best bigs in college basketball, and she dominated.
Well, and that's the thing with Iowa State has never. Iowa State's women's basketball team has never had this physical, this skilled of a big, because you either have a big that is that physical or not skilled, or someone who is skilled and not, like an Ashley Jones is super skilled and she's playing kind of a 4-5-ish, depending on the lineup, but she's not that big. She can't go body somebody. So like a big physical center, a big physical post can move her around. Audie Crooks has such good feet, and she is so athletic with the strength that she has, that like Ioka Lee, that's the reason why Kansas State was so as good as they are, and they were able to beat teams like Iowa, is because they could just out physical you. I'm going to get in the post and screw you. Get out of the way. Audie Crooks says, "Excuse me, you're going to get into what post? Get out of here." And then which allows Addie Brown to not have to be that position, where she can be the Ashley Jones, that 4 who is 12 rebounds, 11 points or whatever, going to hit clutch free throws, because she's going to draw a matchup with somebody who's not quite as athletic as she is, because she's playing, that person's have to play a 4 or whatever, or she's bigger than the other person. And then all the guards. There's 64 of them, just all the guard. I mean, it is looking forward with this team is really, really fun.
Yeah, and I think not just Audie, but I think a lot of the freshmen are still pretty raw. So you get them in. I think
especially someone like Jalen Bristow, like
yes,
she is, and Kelsey Jones, like those two are super skilled, but like every once in a while will get in over their skis a little bit, and give them a little bit of confidence and comfort in their role, and it sort of feels like Jalen Bristow sort of feels like Demarion Watson, kind of, in that like long athlete. She's not quite as proportionally as tall, but in the thing where like throw her out there at any one of the positions 1 through 4 and she's going to be able to do it once she understands where her position needs to be, where her weight needs to be, where her footwork needs to be, and then you get a season to work on that from one to the next. I mean, yeah, they're freshmen are raw, but they're just going to continue getting better.
I might be making this up. I don't think I am. I think Iowa State has an All-American or McDonald's All-American girl coming in next year. Aiden, will you look that up?
Yep, I'm looking it up now.
Yeah, I believe the Iowa State women have McDonald's All-American woman coming in next year, a gal coming in. So, yeah, fun, exciting, young roster.
So so the Big 12, they play on Saturday, which I think Williams and Bloom will probably preview a good bit on their this week's Thursday because there's a Wednesday night game. Aiden, what update on the
Thursday?
So I thought you were talking about the update on the All-American.
No, sorry, Williams and Bloom will be on Thursday.
Okay, so Williams and Bloom is going to be on Thursday. I'm sure they're going to preview the women's tournament a lot, and there's going to be coverage down there provided by Caliber. So like there is plenty of coverage in the women's that's going to be coming. So they start Saturday, but like if you look from again and not ignoring the Big 12 tournament or the NCAA tournament, the person who's probably going to be newcomer of the year is either Audie Crooks or the center from Texas. Well, Texas ain't in the Big 12 anymore. So like their next year, potentially player of the year, preseason player of the year, very realistically could be Audie Crooks.
Yeah.
Like preseason player of the year because of what her impact is. And especially if she continues, like looking at her from like gym owner trainer style, her strength and her athleticism is crazy. Mobility could stand to improve a little bit to be able to kind of sink more defensively, but like she's so quick on her feet for her for the position that she plays to get on the block, and like her footwork is so good, but just to get a little more bend, to get a little bit more kind of comfort on the defensive side, I mean, she's going to be unstoppable. She'll be a superstar by the time she's done here.
For sure. And I think, along with that too, like I said, a full year, little endurance too, could maybe help her as well too. So the games I've watched look like she kind of gets gassed quick, but that's also comes with going from high school to freshman.
And that's also because you have like Nelly will be the one that will come in and spell her. So like there are 2 5s that can play there, but the game focuses so much through her when she's on the court. It's sort of like if Rob Jones got, 18 shots a game. Like that's sort of the physicality that she plays with that, yes, endurance would help, but also there is so much focus on her on the offensive side that like, okay, like go get a breather.
Yeah. She's going to open it up. I mean, the rest of her career, she'll open it up for, other shooters.
Yeah.
So, you mentioned Jones and Emily Ryan. I think this girl coming in is a stud too. So
it's wild. So that's just fun. But like, and again, just all the freshmen. I mean, just the senior leadership. Just I had to want to lead off with Randy.
Yep.
Wanted to go to the women next because like I said, a lot more coverage on Thursday, previewing the Big 12 tournament. We are going to hit the men's games a little bit before we get to Tim, and we also have an overrated, underrated. So we'll go the men's first because I didn't get to watch the whole game. I just we watched the first half, then went downtown to just walk around because it was warm. And then at Peachtree, we stopped to get a beer and watched it on my phone with a bunch of other Iowa State fans that were there for like the last 4 minutes.
Oh, I was gonna say I was at single speed.
Oh.
I watched the first half of single speed. Fantastic nachos. So
great. Single speed, cool vibe.
Yeah,
great vibe.
We were outside. Super windy.
Crazy windy.
Dan McCartney must have been in town, but we had some just fantastic nachos. I watched on my phone first half, and then went home and watched the second half. The one thing I'll say, UCF they were good. We knew it was gonna be a dogfight. Iowa State was only a 3.5 point
and
favorite.
Weren't they the third best defense in the conference?
Yes, I believe them or Oklahoma.
Yeah.
One thing I'll say, never slap the floor on defense. Iowa State was up 50. So someone had just made a free throw. I want to say Keyshawn maybe. Whatever it was. UCF had missed a shot. Whatever it was, Iowa State was up 51-50 with like 2:41 left. And then 3 guys, as we came down the court, 3 guys in unison slapped the floor. Iowa State finished the game on a 9-2 scoring run and won, 60-52. So, and the same thing happened when Iowa State played Oklahoma in the comeback game when Iowa State was down like 48-28 in the second half, whatever it was, and they went on like a 22-0 run. They slapped the floor. That's what ignited the Iowa State comeback. So, note to anybody out there,
don't slap the floor.
Slap the floor
unless you can 100% back it up.
Yeah, unless you are Jamal Shead.
Yeah, if you're Jamal Shad, you can slap the floor. Don't, because you look kind of like a weirdo. Is there a football equivalent to that of slapping the floor?
I don't know.
Because I'm one of because slapping the floor, I wonder if it's like sort of like to motivate, like, oh, we're investing in the defensive end. I think the one thing
I would say maybe a cornerback like doing like
the seatbelt thing,
Yeah.
or the put the sword back. I don't know if it's a seatbelt or a sword. I don't know. Fighter pilot,
Well,
maybe
it's seatbelt because it's strapped.
Oh,
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah.
I thought it was like a sword because you like just got done going to battle, like which that
That's
feels
more of a pitcher thing in baseball.
Oh, okay. Anyway,
I would argue the like pumping up a crowd.
I was gonna say meat
It's
flip,
like
but
what?
the meat flip, the LT meat flip.
Oh.
Or the Marshawn Lynch hold my dick.
Okay, you're going in the end zone, that you can do that.
Yeah.
One of my my two favorite things while we're talking about celebrations that you shouldn't do. One is when a defensive back very clearly interferes with the receiver and then does like the incomplete and starts and does the little seatbelt thing, does like wipes their hands wide and like incomplete, and then like the flag comes down and then they're shocked. Like, to me, that is hilarious. Every time that happens. And I think Alan Lazard did my favorite version. I think it was when he was with the Packers that he ran. Yeah. So he ran a slant route in the end zone. Somebody whoever the defender was, got there like a second too early and like did the, whatever, incomplete. And the flag landed like right in front of him. And Lazard just does like a 2-finger, like point, like right to it. So great. The other thing is when somebody does, an offensive player does a first down, and it's like 7 yards short. It's like 3rd and 18.
Like they get the sticks mixed up and just see the one like, first down.
It's like 3rd and 18. They catch a drag route. They make somebody miss. They get tackled it's an 11-yard gain. They're 7 yards short, and they get up and do the first down. It's like, nope.
You guys are you're about to punt.
No, that's the 35-yard line you needed to get to. Guys, you are well short.
I didn't celebrate enough when I was in college, and I feel like I should have. Like, Nebraska had a 57-yarder. I think you were one of the first people I went out and hugged me at midfield. I should have just celebrated. I didn't, mostly because I didn't even know if the ball was going in half the time when I kicked it. So I don't want to, celebrate and then come out there and shank it.
They have come out. They've loosened the rules on that a lot. Like I remember. Do you remember when Austin Arnaud got a unsportsmanlike? I think it was Colorado at home. It was a zone read. He kept it perfectly. Ran maybe like a 10 or 12-yard touchdown. He just runs through the end zone untouched, gets in the end zone. 2 or 3 yards in the end zone, drops the ball. This is before the south end zone had been redone. So south end zone's just that kind of straight up bleachers. Just points to the fans and does like a couple pats on the chest, throw him unnecessary excessive celebration because he pointed to the fans.
Yeah,
his fans.
They've gotten
Iowa State fans,
a little looser.
So they've gotten substantially looser.
Do you remember that Xavier Hutchinson one?
Oh God,
against Oklahoma State. That's worse than the Arnaud one.
That was hilarious though, because that Campbell was like, get the Ducks ready. Freaking throw it to him again. And then they did it again. Freaking throw it to him again.
Get 8 the pill.
Get 8 the ball. Yeah, just make sure we get the Ducks on that. Because that is an aggressive hard F on that one. But
who are you, George Condit?
One of the things that I wish I would have been able to do is, so like my job was to get first downs, like I was always afraid that because they would call a flag for pretty much anything. Like if you got up and did a first down and anybody was like sort of around you, that could have been construed that you were showboating in their face. They hit a 15-yarder. And I was like, I don't want to get a 3-yard first down and then immediately set us back 15 yards. So I never did it. Would it be today's day and age? The George Kittle, that is so class. Something like that I would have loved to be able to do, but the rules have loosened up in the 15 years since having been done.
Yeah, I don't know what my celebration would have been if I could go back and do it. But
okay. Before we get to Tim, overrated, underrated.
Okay.
I have one. I'll go first with mine.
Yeah, you open it up. I feel like mine are shit, but we'll see.
Overrated, underrated. This is available for sponsorship if anybody's looking for a sponsor.
Outside scoop. There we go.
Also went to Black Cat this week. A+.
A little too goopy.
Okay, whatever. Anyway, overrated. Watching a game on social media. Like watching it live. So like, oh, I have to get to my computer or have to get to my TV. And then you have Twitter open or Instagram or whatever. Twitter's probably the most reasonable to watch it live because you can kind of tweet back and forth. Overrated. Watching it live on Twitter, because then you're just constantly like refreshing and to see what someone's opinion of something is.
Are you talking like the actual video or just like
no, like watching the game on? So I'm sitting on my couch I have the game on the TV, and I have my phone in my hand, but I need to get to watch it live so I can have the social media reaction
Gotcha.
while you're watching it live. So overrated.
Okay.
Partially, I'm just very anti-social media. Hi, you're probably watching this on social media. Just because then you get to actually enjoy it. And just, if you think the game's going well, you could just think the game's going well. You don't have to listen to the 700 people that think the game is going so poorly and the sky is falling. Or if you think the game's going poorly, you can scream at the TV and you don't have to be frustrated by the people that are like, oh, everything's great. Like, you can just have an opinion and you just get to keep that opinion.
Yep.
It's just yours. Underrated. Watching the game on a slight delay. So underrated. This is a thing just because.
What makes you say that?
So when I just started doing this because when I was calling Drake games for the past couple of years, let's say Iowa State kicks off at 1, Drake game kicks off at noon. I would just tell everybody in the production booth, I'd be like, hey, I'm watching the Iowa State game later when I get back. And then I just would turn my phone on Do Not Disturb, and I can just fast forward through the commercials.
Fast forward through commercials is clutch.
You get, especially in football, because there's a lot of commercials. So you just get to show up and you get to fast forward through whatever pregame talk they're talking about, whatever other game is going on. And like, oh, North Carolina, Virginia Tech today. I don't care. And then fast forward, go to the plays. You got to fast forward through the commercials. You got to fast forward through the quarter breaks. You got to fast forward through halftime. If they ever get the point where it's like the touchdown, extra point, kickoff commercial, that takes 15 seconds for you to get through if you watch it on a slight delay. So totally underrated is watching a game on a slight delay, which has to go necessarily with not watching it on social media. So those two things: overrated, watching a game live on social media; underrated, watching it on a delay.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I'm not sure I've ever experienced your overrated where you're watching it live on social media, but I have done the underrated where I've been at, I don't know, this football season, I was at a kid's birthday party. One of my wife's friends' kids had to record it and come back and watch it. I was like, this is so clutch.
It's great, right?
Just
fast forward through commercials, halftime.
Unfortunately, I don't knew the outcome, but yeah.
So that's the other part of it. You really got to read it. I will usually, no offense to you two, we have a pretty aggressive, pretty active group chat going on through both basketball and football season. I'll throw you guys on just that text chat on the notification silence, just because then if I see you being like, man, Demarion Watson on fire today, and I'm like, oh, what's Demarion Watson going to do? And it kind of it's sort of like in a book, and you flip to the end of the page to see what's happening and then go back.
Okay.
So I usually will just, if I'm on a delay, that's why I'll text you guys ahead of time that I got to watch it on a delay. So you're not mad that I'm not responding to texts, because I have you guys on Do Not Disturb.
Well, I've been mad, but now that I know, I forgive you.
Just because I'm on a delay. With a baby or work or whatever. I don't do, usually I'm not going to do it on purpose, where it's games at 7, I have nothing going on, I'm going to watch it at 8. But if I have something going on or dealing with the daughter, then I can just watch it on a delay.
Yeah. Okay. I like those.
Underrated, watching it with a delay.
Yeah. Mine isn't necessarily just one sport, but it's sports in general. I would say overrated is MLB opening day, and underrated is Selection Sunday.
Ooh, Selection Sunday. What? Aiden's gonna be a head shake.
MLB opening day is awesome.
MLB opening day is great.
There's 140 games.
162.
Whatever. Yeah, that's way too many.
That is.
I do agree with that. I'm a baseball guy.
Same.
120 is perfect.
Yeah, the games don't really. I don't like. I'm a newly adopted Orioles fan as of last year. The story on that very quickly is watched baseball, grew up playing baseball, loved baseball, was a Cubs and a Braves fan just because they were on TV and I could watch it.
Because you're old?
Because I'm old. Because I was on TBS and WGN.
Okay, Williams.
Anyway, and then didn't watch baseball for 10 years because it was just too boring and I had other stuff going on.
Still is.
And it is not. Much better last year.
Clock's awesome.
Pitch clock's awesome. Bigger base is awesome. The no shift thing, I didn't agree with it last year. Makes more scoring. Anyway, didn't watch it for 10 years. And when I started watching it again, I was like, I don't know anybody. No one that I was familiar. Chris Bryant's on the Dodgers now? What is this? So no idea who anybody was. So I was like, well, I was sort of a fan of the Braves and sort of a fan of the Cubs. Why? And I was like, you know what? Pick a brand new team. This is very few times in life.
Too.
And so the criteria for picking a new baseball team was they had to be an underdog, but capable. So it couldn't be like the A's, where they just suck. They're going to suck. They have sucked.
The A's and the Marlins have always been my teams, if I ever have teams.
But Marlins have actually won a couple World Series. But anyway, so they had to be an underdog, but capable. They had to have history on their side somewhere. Again, ruling out teams like the Rays, where they're not really an underdog. They've won a couple in the past, but can't rule out the Rays because they don't really have a lot of history. And then they had to have a fun style, like an enjoyable style baseball to watch. Orioles, very fun, and cool mascot. Cool mascot, cool colors, cool logo.
Yeah.
Orioles, check all those boxes. So I'm an Orioles fan as of last year. So I'm very excited for MLB opening day. Also, Selection Sunday, I will disagree a little bit. It's great. It needs to be 30 minutes of a show,
No.
not 4 hours.
No, give it to us, man. I want to know what's going on with Loyola Marymount. Akron? Who we got? Talk to us, Chuck. Who we got? Ooh, Charles Barkley.
Now, I'll tell you what, man, this Akron
Akron,
team,
that's
just terrible.
that got it. They got themselves that's a big offensive threat. Man, I'll tell you
Akron
what.
shouldn't be a 13 seed. They're terrible. It's underrated, man. As soon as that bracket's revealed, boom, I'm printing off 4 of them. I'm filling them out.
You still do it manually?
Oh, hell yeah, dude. I do actually. I print them out because I like to highlight them. I'll do multiple, though. I'll do some like on the ESPN app, but then I like to print them out too.
Oh, can we officially announce this? Or can we? Okay, go for it.
I was gonna make a totally different point, but
I was gonna say the official. We're gonna do an episode, and I've been excited about this episode for like a year, and now I finally have somebody who has the same level of what the hell are you thinking in Grant, which is we're gonna do a mascot fights episode where we take the NCAA men's bracket and who would win in a fight. We're not talking Creighton versus Oregon. We're talking who would win in a fight between a Blue Jay and a Duck, and take that to find a new national champion.
the first annual Mike Leach bracket.
Mike Leach
May
bracket.
God rest his soul.
Rest in peace, Mike.
So we're going to do that as a special episode here on Kickin' It, and that's going to be our contribution to NCAA basketball coverage. We're going to help some with Iowa State. We're going to talk about it, but that is going to be its own special episode.
We're trying to get a guest. We'll see if he's able to come on, but we will for sure have this guest at the mascot bracket.
You're in for a treat.
Yeah.
Anyway,
my last point on overrated though. I'm probably in the minority because I'm not a huge baseball. I played baseball growing up. Played baseball in high school. The last like baseball game I've watched on TV was when the Cubs won the World Series.
oh, that's a while ago.
That's
Yeah, you
been a
just
minute.
tune it in.
Probably not.
Next,
See, now is the perfect time to get into it, just with all these rule
and
changes.
do the thing that I did, and you can just pick a new team. You don't have to this is the beauty of it. You haven't paid attention for a decade almost.
The Mariners.
Okay, Mariners,
fun
they're
team.
good. They're
Fun
fun.
team.
They have
Julio
they're
Rodriguez.
good
They
offense.
still got Ichiro.
They
Nope, not quite.
don't. He's in the Hall of Fame now.
I still have my Ichiro jersey from my
see, you
sophomore
could
year
just-
in high school.
You can probably still fit in it, but you
For real, probably could.
Mariners would be fun, and then you get to watch the Mariners. And you get fun. But anyway, more offense. The pitch clock is so much better. Games are legit like 40 minutes faster than they were 2 years ago. So much more fun. And the pitch clock as another thing, just because baseball fan, Aiden, and a guy who works in sports performance, Bartolo Colon would not live well in a world that has a pitch clock. So like if you're a pitcher,
Is he retired by now?
yeah, has been for a while.
Yeah.
So
What about Felix Hernandez?
yep, still he's
Yeah,
retired.
he's been out for a while.
Yep.
Not too terribly long, but long enough to where it's like, yeah, he's
Yeah.
different.
He's
K
my
Rod.
guy.
Yep.
He's my guy.
So if throwing a pitch like is near maximal effort, and when you have to do a near maximal effort thing, and then 20 seconds later do it again, then 20 seconds later do it again, if you're not in shape, you're gonna miss, and then the hitters can actually then capitalize on your mistake. Versus when Bartolo Colon or whoever, an out of shape pitcher, could take 3 hours to go through a game and take 2 minutes between. So it's like a max squat, and then you get to walk around, go sit down, get a drink, whatever, and then get back under it. Versus max squat. All right, get back under it, do it again. And so like that, it makes pitchers make more mistakes, and it makes the games go faster, and there's more offense, more fun to watch.
Teams need bullpens now too.
Yeah, you actually because
No one throws complete games.
no one
anymore.
throws complete games because it's so much faster. Like it is max effort, and so there's more offense. The batters have to stay in the box, like not physically. Like you can take one step out and come back in. You get one timeout per at bat. So like if you the whole thing of like waiting for a pitcher to get set and then call timeout and do your gloves 75
Oh,
times.
you get one
whatever,
of those, huh?
You get one of those at bat. So if you take one, and I'm the pitcher, then I can press you hard. Like I can say, get on the mound, go. Like I can force you into the time when you don't want to, or I can get on the mound and I can just wait there because you have to stay in the box and then go right when the pitch clock's about to stop. So you have to sit in your batting stance and just wait and think and whatever. So there's so much more that goes on because the pitch clock. So much more of a baseball fan this year than I ever was, or last year into this year.
Pickoff moves are down too. Do you remember that rule?
Oh yeah, because you only have one pickoff per at bat.
One
right?
pickoff per at bat. The second one, you have to either get him or they
advance the
get
base. And they made the bases bigger, so stealing is easier. So like the bases are literally like
Too many rules.
the bases are like 3
All
inches
good rules.
wider, and so when you're stealing, you actually have more access. So like the glove is down or guys trying to tag you, you can move your hand around. So there's more guys in scoring position. The pitchers are making more mistakes. You can't pick off all the time. The batters actually have to stay in there and throw it.
This is probably a dumb question. Do all of these rules apply to like the Iowa Cubs, or is it just
yes?
MLB?
They actually, a lot of them are tested in AAA, and then they go. So they've been playing the pitch clock for the Iowa Cubs for like 3 or 4 years now, and so then they test it and kind of troubleshoot. Is it 20 seconds or 22 seconds? 15 seconds? Where's and then get the umpires' official things. The thing that's going to be coming to the MLB pretty soon, I would imagine, because they're testing it in the minors, is the automatic the computer umpire for ball strikes.
Oh wow!
I'm a big fan of the human element from an umpire.
How's that work? You got a robot behind the plate?
So basically, it's like the ump is there. They have this computerized strike zone,
and he's got an earpiece.
Yep. Ump says ball 2, and catcher
like what you see, like a strike zone you see like on
yeah
essentially,
like
and the catcher can be like,
broadcast.
no, it's a bad call. Go to the booth, and then it's like instantly they know.
So instead of
a strike,
instead of like going to review, so like in the VAR and like football match or like football or soccer matches where they have to like go to the little box and look at it, or football or whatever. Versus in baseball, it happens right now because you can tell with a computer. And the reason why they did that isn't for like when you're at a game, you can't tell if it's a strike or a ball. You're in a weird angle. No one sees it like the official does. But if you're watching it on TV, they have that little strike zone. Like it tells you if it's a good call or a bad call. And so if you're watching it on TV and you're like, this umpire sucks, you're right, because you can see it.
Yeah.
But everybody in the facility can't. And so it's making sure you match the accuracy of the TV broadcast with the accuracy of the live stuff so that you have more trust in the officials that so rarely do they actually have to go to that. Those guys are good. And so they so rarely have to go to that review to change something that you're like, damn, like this guy's, 235 pitches in this game for both sides, and this guy's missed 4. Like that's the type of stuff. Like, I don't know. We spent a lot of time talking baseball. I didn't expect to.
I might tune in for a Mariners game this year to see if
you're a Mariners fan now.
Edgar Martinez.
I'm an Orioles fan. Nope, he is. Edgar Martinez he's like 60 now.
Well, he probably still swing it.
He probably could.
I'm still out on. I'm overrated on opening day. Sorry, guys. But I might be. You've persuaded me to. If there's a game on, I'll check it out.
Yeah. So what I will say though, I will agree with you. Overrated. Teams in the north of the Mason-Dixon line opening day, because it's always like, oh, we're going to go to the Great American Ballpark in Cincinnati, and it's 41 degrees with a little bit of wet sleet coming down, and here's Joey Votto. And you're like, oh, okay.
Are the Astros still cheating?
No. They got Dusty Baker. Dusty Baker, the manager of the Cubs,
remember him
prior to them actually winning everything. He is the manager of the Astros, and he last year when the Astros, 2 years ago when the Astros won the World Series, he had finally gotten off the schneid in not the worst record, one of the worst records, the Dan Marino record of baseball, which is most wins by a manager without a World Series title, was Dusty Baker until 2 years ago when he finally won it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Who would have thought? Banging on trash cans.
Yep.
Okay, well, let's get into our Goldfinch Athletics interview of the week with Tim Fitzgerald of 247 and GoPowercat. Talking some Kansas State basketball. We're just kind of going to skip over the BYU game. Good luck to the boys on senior night. Revenge game. Get that win. Don't let them shoot threes and make them. But BYU can be a scary game.
Chet.
Yeah.
Chet. Okay, well, just as a reminder for those that are listening, every player on BYU's team is named Chet.
And one last thing,
and his dad's a dentist.
Before we dive into he's an attorney.
He's an attorney. No, the other Chet's dad's dentist.
Oh, before we dive into the interview too,
mom's a VP of marketing.
I feel like BYU's squad, you can look at them and you're like, man, like if you just take a picture of the squad, not just that, but are these guys is this 2024 or 1984? Like one guy's got just like a slick back, like he came from Back to the Future, slick back, mullet, has tight shorts on, high, tall white socks. They got that tall dude with like a Chinese tattoo on his arm. Like,
yeah, just mild tattoos. It's just every basketball player on BYU's team is named Chet, no matter what.
Shut the heck up!
Gosh darn it!
You seen that video?
You stinker pants! Yeah, when he goes, shut the heck up. Was it Texas?
I don't know. Some fans are giving it to him. The guys on the floor just like crying. He looks up, shut the heck up. Well, okay. Let's dive into our interview here with Tim Fitzgerald. And now we welcome in Tim Fitzgerald of 247, publisher of GoPowercat. You can find him on Twitter at Life of Fitz. Tim, how are you? Thanks for joining us again.
I'm good. Glad to be back.
I'm glad to have you on. Jeff was not. He wasn't here last time.
Was I in South Carolina?
You were somewhere.
Somewhere else.
Yeah, and I had my russet
potato. Oh no, this was for during football season. That was my wife was having a baby. So
terrible timing.
Yeah. Sorry.
Really, that's the excuse you're going to use?
It's fine. I know it's unacceptable, but she was like, "Oh, I'm creating human life. You better be here." And I was like, but I could interview Tim.
So selfish.
I know.
So, Tim, there are some storylines, I guess, with Iowa State and Kansas State. I'm going to dive right into it. So, when Kansas State,
why is Jerome Tang the worst person on the planet?
Which is funny, is it's just the opposite of that.
I know, but
so when Kansas State came into Ames on January 29th, I think when they last played, 24th, whenever it was, in early January, Kansas State was 4-1. Since then, since playing that game, they are they're 3-7, so they've lost 7 of 10. The fans want to know, did Iowa State break Kansas State?
Well, in a way they did. And honestly, look, Iowa State was just better. And then they went to Houston the next game. And so between those two games, those two teams put on film how to dismantle K-State, how to disrupt anything they want to do. K-State's gotten better about that. They've kind of moved Tyler Perry off the ball a little bit more, but yeah, between Iowa State and Houston back-to-back on the road, lovely week in the Big 12, by the way. Yeah, it all got put on film, and we saw Oklahoma replicate it, BYU do some of that, although they're a different team than most Big 12. We just saw everyone start cashing in on it. And of course, ironically, Kansas came into Bramlage Coliseum and tried to do just what they do. And it didn't work. They won. K-State won. That was their one win in like a 7-game stretch there. They've won 2 of their last 3. So it's, in a way they did. They did. And I think, honestly, I think the whole filming thing became a temporary distraction. On the heels of that, Jerome Tang got dinged by the Big 12 by complaining about a referee that worked the Houston game for kind of berating one of his players on the court, which was a strange situation. It was a weird week. And I think they did get derailed a little bit by that week on the road.
Yeah. So one question that I had, anytime any rivalry happens or any kerfuffle exists between two teams, great word, there is almost always going to be a line in the sand that says, my guy's right. And then the other side goes, my guy's right. So in this situation where these filming, or there was something thrown, or there was whatever, all that stuff kind of happened, and then none of it turned out to be true. Has there been any, what is the Kansas State fan perception of Jerome Tang and the coaching staff been? Because you go from my guy's right, and then Iowa State fans are my guy's right, and then Kansas State loses 7 of 8, and none of it becomes true. Has it sort of been one of those things that gets swept underneath the mat, or are they just go, we still like our guy and I don't really care about it? What is the Kansas State fan perception of Jerome Tang and the coaching staff coming out of all that?
Well, what's interesting about that whole situation, first of all, I was the guy who actually broke it, that found out what it was about. And I didn't get it from the basketball staff, even though I'm close with them. I got it from a national writer who called me and said, do you know what's going on with this filming thing? Because he was privy to a text message chain among Big 12 assistant coaches.
Interesting.
Apparently an Oklahoma State assistant, I believe Oklahoma State had just been there before K-State, told them about what they thought was going on. So that's kind of the background leading in. But Jerome Tang's thing, since the moment it was the game was over, was I asked TJ to look into it. And really, it was not a topic at K-State 2 days later. And then later that week, I'm hearing from my friend Alec Bussey, who covers up there, it's blowing up here. I'm like, K-State's moved on. These fans are already worried about an official who's berating Cam Carter on the court for reasons we can't explain. So that story was gone by the weekend or the next game. It was incredible.
Yeah, that's interesting too. And Oklahoma State, I feel like we could have rolled out our.
Well, that was also weird because
5 through 10.
1, they didn't want to be here. 2,
yeah,
that was a snowpocalypse when it was the game was supposed to be at 5, and then it got snowed in. They didn't get out of here until whenever, and then by the time they got up here, they'd lost 4 in a row, and then they had the game got delayed and whatever. And I think Iowa State won that game by 26.
Yeah, I don't think they
clearly filming.
I don't think they wanted to be
clearly
there.
It's cheating.
Well, I think
the only way you win is cheating.
I think. You've never been to Ames. I'm not trying to I'm not trying to beat a dead horse. If you've ever been in Ames or Hilton, you can't send a text, period. And so I do know that there are parents of the dance team who will record the dance team or even the dance team coach. So that could have been what it was. But yeah, man, that really blew up. And I know that after the Iowa State game, Jerome Tang and Kansas State fans were like, man, we're going to circle the March 9th game for when Iowa State comes back down to Manhattan. So I guess
that was a pencil.
Yeah.
Very light number 1 pencil. It's not even a number 2 pencil. It's number 1 pencil.
So obviously, Kansas State has a huge matchup with Kansas on Tuesday. On Tuesday.
Yeah, Tuesday.
Tomorrow. So what does Kansas State need to do, if it's even possible, to make it to the tournament, aside from winning the Big 12 tournament?
Well, losing to Cincinnati was almost fatal for a couple of reasons. First of all, it would have given K-State the separation to not be playing on the first day in the Big 12. Now they could lose that tiebreaker if they end up tied. They have lost it with Cincinnati. And when you're playing Iowa State and Kansas in a week, if you get one, you've had a hell of a good week. So yeah, they've put themselves in a corner. Jerome Tang said from start of the year, and he's right, historically, 9-9 in the Big 12 gets you in the tournament. Now, K-State's net is pretty bad. And I'm not sure even beating Kansas on the road, which would be significant, Iowa State at home, which would be a little less significant, but still pretty good, especially this season. I don't even know if that fixes their issues. That's how bad they are in the net. So I think they've got to win 3 games between now and the end of the season, and not just 3, the right 3. You can't go into the first day of the Big 12 tournament and beat West Virginia again and pound your chest that you're ready for the tournament. So they've got work to do. And in fact, they have troubles with the NIT right now because of the new format. They would be the 3rd team in net ratings if the Big 12 only gets 9 teams in, which doesn't get you an automatic berth in the new system for the NIT, and they fall into the at-large pool, and their net rating's that bad that it could put them out. It's crazy how this season's gone off the rails.
So do you think if say Kansas State misses out on the big dance and they somehow get left out of the NIT, do you think fans will start to turn on Jerome Tang?
No, he's built up so much. You guys see this from the Iowa State perspective. That man is absolutely beloved here.
Okay.
He's changed a lot of cultural things at K-State that a lot of alumni weren't real happy about, and you couldn't tell the students what to do. And he walked in the door and convinced them to be better. I mean, he just literally did. So there's no more FKU chant at K-State. There's no more disrupting the Wabash Cannonball with chants. There's no more storming the court. He's made an incredible cultural impact at Kansas State, and he does incredible work with, involving the student body into a lot of things.
I see that he gets up in the crowd and
after
they beat
it was Kansas.
Was it Kansas?
It was Kansas.
Yeah. They used to be BYU too. BYU was a kind of significance. They just lost 2 weeks ago in Provo, and so yeah, whenever he has a home win, he heads to the student body or the band and does the Wabash Cannonball with them.
Other than, the obvious answer is the 2 All-Americans that were on the team last year. But what would you say that kind of the most significant difference is? Because is it most of the roster turned over from last year to this year, or has it been you just lose Marquise Noels as a giant playmaking point guard, tiny but giant playmaking point guard who can facilitate everything when things are going down? Because Kansas State last year was so tough.
They also had the guy from Florida, the guy who transferred.
Yeah, the forward. And so you have, I guess, those 2 guys. You have 2 All-Americans, but they were so tough in that when stuff started going down, like the culture of the team, and it probably was led by, guys like Noel, could kind of rally it back. This team doesn't feel like it has that. Is it a talent thing? Is it a personnel thing? Is it just like the guys that are on the court? I guess what's the main difference from last year to this year, aside from, again, it's a big asterisk, but aside from 2 All-Americans not being on the team?
Yeah. It's all the things you listed. In hindsight now, the season got off to a bad start when they had basically Max Asmith committed and he went to Texas and changed his mind. That changes your team. They also struck out on another point guard in the portal. And at some point they decided, well, we're going to have to use Tyler Perry as a point guard. the dude's never been a point guard. He might be 5'10", 5'11", but he's been shooting the ball his whole life. He's been, catching and shooting, and now you want him to dribble and shoot. And that didn't work so well for most of the season. They've gone to their freshman point guard a little bit to help with that. But on top of that, you come back and you've got a pretty strong roster, and the university president kicks off Naquan Tomlin, who was a potential all Big 12 guy. He's probably an NBA guy.
Forgot about that.
It's too deep to get into, but let's put it this way. It was really heavy-handed what the president did. It was, he might have done something. He had a disorderly conduct. He might have hit a woman, which the film didn't show. So he just kicked him off. And the university president almost got run out of town. And then on the heels of all that, you bring in a combo guard named Quez Glover, who's supposed to help, at least handle the ball a little bit better. And he's hurt his knee twice this season, has never stepped on the court. So they don't have the natural point guard. You go from Marquise Noel to someone who has never played point guard before. Yeah, that's going to be a drop off. That's a problem because Marquise is all point guard. Yeah, he can shoot the ball, but he creates for others at a really high level. So that's really where it's at. They don't have enough dudes, and they don't have enough ball handling. This team's tragically bad in foundational skills. Sometimes you'll ask Coach Tang, what are you guys working on? And he'll answer dribbling and passing. Yeah, these are college basketball players. They had 19 turnovers at Cincinnati. I mean, they lose by 2 and they get outscored 29-6 off turnovers. So, that it's not hard to diagnose what's going on here.
I imagine dribbling and passing. I imagine that scene from The Office with Stanley just dribbling. Kind of piggybacking off of that, and I know you can't predict the future and have a crystal ball, but what would you say that Kansas State needs next year? Like, what are they losing? What are they? Iowa State, we're losing our 3 bigs, and so like there's no doubt, there's no question Iowa State needs to find a big or 2 in the portal. What does Kansas State need for next year to be able to compete for potentially a Big 12 championship?
Aside from the point guard ball handling issue, which got another really good freshman coming in, but Jerome Tang's really committed to having veteran guards because that's how you win in the postseason. Aside from that, they got to find some dogs. They got to get some guys that just want to rip your heart out. And Iowa State has that this year. Iowa State has some guys that absolutely compete at a high level. And that K-State did last year with Noel and Johnson and Tomlin. And now to not have any of that, have guys that are a little bit more passive. And, they've tried to have Tyler Perry turn into the leader they need. And he's the best leader available. Let's put it that way. They're missing some key ingredients. They're just missing some things that they're going to have to fix with the portal. And I don't know how many guys are going to bring in the portal, but it's going to be interesting in the offseason.
More a broader conversation than just Kansas State. When you look at the Big 12 this year, there's sort of, I'm curious to see or just to hear your perspective on it from watching Kansas State games, because we watch Iowa State games and it's like, if you don't tape your knuckles the right way, you're going to split your hand open kind of games. And so Kansas State doesn't play exactly that same physicality level. From your perspective, when you're looking at the Big 12 teams as a whole, getting into the tournament, do you feel like it's going to be an advantageous thing that they've gone through this physical gauntlet of a Big 12 in that they're ready to handle any fist fight that you can have in the tournament? Or do you feel like it's disadvantageous in that if the tournament's usually refereed a little bit tighter than the regular season is, do you feel like the Big 12 teams are going to have more tournament success because of the high level of competition they've had? Or do you feel like it's going to be a detriment because of the physicality and the gauntlet that they've already had to go through?
Yeah, let's see how they call the tournament. Sometimes they call it closer. Sometimes they let them play. That'd be to the advantage of the Big 12 because you're right. They get after each other. I think after going through this full season of Big 12 basketball, I think every Big 12 fan would love to see a little more consistency with officiating, whether it's tight or loose through the course of the game.
Yeah,
this has been an absolute disaster for the conference.
Just make it the same. But I would also say, like, if I don't know, I can't think of an official, like Kelly Self. If you're Kelly Self, what do you do? Especially like teams like Houston and Iowa State, like you could call 4 fouls on every possession, both offensively and defensively, and then the other team just has to get wrapped into that. So like do you call everything or do you call nothing? And if you call nothing, like Iowa State just played at Houston, there was a decent number of free throws shot, but like there was times when like Robert Jones, the center, was getting just like a dude put his chest through his neck.
He
and,
hopped
like,
on for a piggyback ride. Nothing was called.
nothing.
Legit.
Crazy what they ignore.
All right, I guess, I don't know, just let him play. So like, I feel like it's got to be the hardest of conference to call, but call it the same kind of bad. Like if the strike zone's 2 inches off the plate, just keep it 2 inches off the plate. Like that's
Right.
I think the ask for us fans. So it's good to know that Kansas State feels the same way.
Oh, I think everyone in I think the Big 12, well, honestly, college basketball has this issue. It's not like Big 12 officials only work Big 12 games, but there is a core group that do. They just don't have enough experienced officials. I mean, who would have thought we'd all be sitting around going, boy, I miss John Higgins. Oh, we are. And, I'm a believer that the NCAA needs to be proactive, something they don't do very often, and start a program bringing former athletes into officiating. I don't care if it's basketball or volleyball or football or soccer. Get some of these ex-athletes that have moved on from their career to start training to be officials and work them up through the ranks and avoid these officiating camps that are, just kind of self-fulfilling. Hey, I've gone to Doug Sermon's camp. Did you kiss his ass? Well, yeah, I did. Okay, you're going to be a Big 12 official. I mean, that's kind of the way it works now. It's a good old boys club, and I think the whole system's collapsing around us.
So you're suggesting the NCAA do something that's low cost, high effectiveness, makes pragmatic sense, and is forward thinking.
Right.
What
and instead they'll punish San
person
Jose
are
State
you?
for something. Yeah, I know. I defend the NCAA and the fact that it is what the members have made it.
It's true.
But it's now, I mean, some of the stuff going on now is just ridiculous. I'm glad that those recruits aren't getting candy in their room. That was horrible. That was awful. I'm glad they cleaned that up.
Cookie cake when I was at Iowa State, they had a nice big old cookie cake.
Did you report that to compliance?
No, I reported it to my belly. Get on in there.
Yeah, get in there.
You're telling me, Tim, you'd be okay if King McClure stopped what he was doing to become an official?
What is the opinion on King as an announcer down there?
Okay, so here's my thought. A little more nuanced because what is he good right now? No. He's also really young.
Yep.
I think he's trying to. So this is I'll call games too. So like I'm also fairly newish, so I want to be like more generous to other people. One of the things that you want to make sure that you do, and people like Fran Fraschilla do a really good job of, the top college football guys like Joel Klatt and whatever, is have something to say, and you have to have a point of view. And if you don't have a point of view, then what you say is more or less white noise. And I think King has good perspective on what like he sees, but he doesn't communicate anything more than that was cool. And it's like, all right, great. It's like, look at that. It's a big dunk. It's like also cool, but like what is happening? Like have a perspective, have something to say. So I think the more he gets into it, the more he should get coached on that same, because his voice is cool. Like he has the capacity to kind of change his, get a little intonation. I think 10 years from now, if he's allowed to continue, will be really good. Just right now, boy, it's tough.
Grant, it's interesting you brought him up because he's been my example. I love that ESPN took a young guy and said, you know what, the hell with it. We're going to let you learn on the job, because he does have you can tell he could be really good at this.
Yeah.
But he has kind of pulled back to be pretty generic in his comments. But he's also the example I want with officials. Okay, this guy's only been officiating 3 years and he's now doing Big 12 games. Our expectations change.
Yeah.
Because now we're like, not only is he learning on the job, we have hope for the future that 10 years from now, this dude's going to have 20 years of officiating ahead of him and be really good at it.
Yeah.
That's where we're at with college sports. We got to invest. We got to go back and invest in some new officials, some people that understand the game. They played the game. I think that's important. And let them learn on the job and just suffer what we've got to, because you know what? We're not doing that now. And the officiating still sucks.
Yeah. I would only say in regards to him being like a color commentator is that I think what makes a great analyst or color commentator is if I'm stepping away to do something, I'm still listening to the game. I can still know what's going on aside from cool dunk, nice pass. Like I want to know, pass to the wing, drop down low. Like I want to know that kind of stuff, which I feel like he struggles with. And
well, I love
he's new though. So
I love talking like mechanics of broadcasting too. So like he also generally does tend to get pretty good play-by-play help, because like every once in a while he'll get Rich Hollenberg and guys like that where they're good at communicating what's going on. But like I think in time I'm excited to see where he'll get to. But it's also been kind of nice. Like I don't know, Jess Settles has come and done a few games for Iowa State on like the ESPN Plus. Jess has been doing it for 20 years now, 15, right. 20 years. And so it is good to see, but like Fran is the best. Is Fran as revered in Manhattan as he is in Ames? Is he just the mayor of the Big 12?
Yeah. And what I like about Fran is he doesn't shy away from controversial opinions like on Twitter.
No, he doesn't.
He'll put it out there. And yet we're all like, Fran's the cream of the crop. There's no doubt. He's been a great spokesperson for this conference. And I think he's played a big role in why this conference is now so highly respected.
So, Tim, the last time we had you on was Iowa State, Kansas State football game that's now been dubbed the Snowmageddon game or the Abu Sama game, however you want to say it.
Hey,
either way.
Went to my high school. Go Rams. Abu Sama, go Rams.
Could you have him run across the screen right now? Because I don't think he's ever stopped. He forced gumped K-State in that game.
Added in. What a wild game. I guess I don't really have a whole lot to talk on it, but that was one of the more. I didn't want the game to end. Obviously, I'm glad Iowa State won, but it was such a fun. I was never a part of I don't know about you, Jeff. I was never a part of a snow game. I've never really seen a
not that much.
No,
I played in snow games. I played in ice games, but I've never played in a foot of snow.
Like Kansas, yeah. Like, did you play Kansas?
The Kansas, yeah, that was my senior day. It was 0 degrees and the field froze over before we played.
Just an ice rink out there. So I don't really have anywhere I'm going with that. Just the last time we had John was prior to that game, and it was what a wild, fun game to watch.
And we get one of those snows here maybe every 3-4 years. That just kind of snows and snows. It's like a rainy day, but with snow. It just goes all day. And we got one on a game day. I mean, it's crazy because a couple days later it was really warm and it all melted. So I don't think K-State had the right footwear. I still haven't asked Chris Kleiman about it, but I still don't think they had ideal footwear. Iowa State just looked a lot faster, a lot more comfortable. And they discovered some guys just didn't want to play that badly.
Well, I don't know. They had a guy. Iowa State has a snow machine in their indoor, so they actually
they actually practice. They practice with they just got it from Seven Oaks it's a ski place on a hill over here, so they just rented their snow machine. And just,
are you serious?
No.
No. You had me going, but
the indoor.
It's 8 feet of snow inside of there. You actually have snow tunnels to get through.
Yeah.
Hey, look, I don't know what you people in Iowa do, but that sounds pretty normal for you.
Usually just drink beer, watch sports. That's pretty much it.
I say go cow tipping. I've never.
Okay, I know we were going to talk about basketball. So another question that I have, and this is, I like to watch sports, despite the fact that went to Iowa State. We cover Iowa State. Would be preferential if Iowa State wins, but most of the time, I like to watch sports like I'm an alien from outer space. Like if I understand the sport at all, like what is happening with a guy that for me was hard to root for as an alien from outer space was Will Howard, because a lot of if something wasn't going right, like there's a way to get frustrated and there's a way to then be productively frustrated. It seemed like if you got to Will Howard, you got to Will Howard, and he's going to chuck his helmet across the bench. He is going to lose it. He's going to scream at a referee or whatever.
Yep.
Him leaving, because he's at Ohio State now, leaving. And now, because is it Avery Thomas? Avery Johnson, the quarterback. What is the football staff / and I don't want to say like, oh, we're glad that guy's gone, but what is the feeling around the football program? Because the team goes as the quarterback goes. And it feels like Will Howard is an emotional roller coaster where it's good if it's good, if it's bad, if it's bad. Does the football program feel more like it's on Chris Kleiman's footing? Because it feels like Avery Johnson is more of a Chris Kleiman guy. Like, I don't know if that's necessarily the right question, but what does the football program feel like now that Will Howard's gone and Avery Johnson's the guy?
Well, in hindsight, we found out after that Iowa State game that players in the locker room knew Will Howard was transferring. Always good to have.
Okay.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but Coach Campbell left some dudes at home that he thought were going to transfer.
Yes, he did.
And
that's the reason why Sama had a great game is the 2 guys ahead of him were going to transfer. One I think they both went, like one went laterally, one went down. And so next guy up. All right, here you go.
Yep. Didn't have the distraction. He knew that coach was, playing it through the wire. We're playing to win. Meanwhile, K-State, the quarterback, is telling his buddies, yeah, I'm going to hit the portal. And the reason why he was going to hit the portal was everyone in Manhattan knew Avery Johnson was going to be the starter this upcoming season. Will knew it too. And in fact, the question here isn't, very complex. A lot of people want to know why Will Howard continued to play and get almost all the snaps down the stretch for Kansas State, even when Avery Johnson could help him. And that's Chris Kleiman being loyal to a guy who, went through the battles and earned some time. But we found out now that Will Howard just kind of thought, well, now that I'm the starting quarterback, I get to be the starting quarterback and I'm not accountable anymore. And that's not how football works. You know who's not accountable for every little mistake? Patrick Mahomes. And you know what? You're not Patrick Mahomes. So if you have 3 interceptions at Oklahoma State and you basically lose the game for your team, yeah, you're going to be accountable, and Avery's going to run for 5 touchdowns at Texas Tech. But then Avery just kind of disappeared off the radar for a while. And I think fans feel like if they had played him in a few other games, K-State would have had a 10-win season, but they didn't. And the season ended with a thud because Iowa State came to play and K-State wanted to make snow angels. I don't know what the hell they were doing that day.
But then they bounced back to maybe the bowl game with the best mascot.
Oh, it was incredible.
Pop-Tarts.
Oh, the Pop-Tart
Oh,
bowl.
that was great. Fantastic.
That's good marketing. Good marketing.
Heck yeah.
Brilliant.
So I know that Kansas State lost their, sticking with football, I know that they lost their offensive coordinator. I don't know who they hired.
They promoted their offensive line coach, Connor Riley. And then Matt Wells, former Tech coach, has come in as co-coordinator and taken Colin Klein's place coaching the quarterbacks.
Was
Matt Wells was at
Oklahoma.
He was Utah State,
right?
Head coach of Utah State. His brother Luke was our tight end coach.
Yes.
Oh, that's interesting.
Matt Wells was at Iowa State when we were there for a cup of coffee.
Yep, that's 2 years.
Yeah, year 2.
2 years, I think, maybe 3, 2 with Herman. This is interesting. So what do you think is going to, I would imagine Kleiman and Campbell seem very, very similar in kind of their perception outlook of everything. Do you feel like there's going to be an offensive shift coordinator wise? Because you should, at least for me, if I'm the coordinator of the Kansas State Wildcat offense next season, I make sure Avery Johnson gets 10 to 12 rushing attempts planned in any game. Do you feel like there's going to be any difference? Because Colin Klein, I mean, arguably him and like Deuce Staley are like the 2 best, or not
Deuce Vaughn,
and then Darren Sproles. Those guys are the best offensive players in Kansas State history. And
what about that white guy, Jordy Nelson?
Okay, Jordy Nelson. When you Tyler Lockett's pretty Tyler Lockett. Can we side tangent with Tyler Lockett? He played the same time we did. That son of a bitch is so hard to tackle. Because I cut my teeth on special teams. I played most of it all the time. Kansas State was always the best at special teams. And they were always the best because they were so patient on their returns. And Tyler Lockett was always the returner. And you could not phase him, and you could never get a dead hit on him. So like there is just big return after big return because he's so damn hard to tackle. So I respect Tyler Lockett, but I hate Tyler Lockett at the same time. Anyway, is there going to be an offensive scheme change outside of Avery Johnson?
Well, we just had a press conference today, so to open up spring football, and Coach Kleiman did mention they're going to change a few things on either side of the ball. Didn't get into specifics, but he did mention that bringing in some of the Matt Wells passing game stuff to layer into the offense. And I think if you're Connor Riley and Matt Wells, you're looking at Avery Johnson as a player that we need to make a threat on every play. We can't run him like we'd like to because you'll get killed in this conference. That's been an ongoing issue with K-State not being able to keep quarterbacks healthy because they use them too much in the quarterback run game. But he's kind of got that same skill not to get a square hit on him. He's the fastest guy on the team. He's got a really good arm. So they can layer in some things that I think will really mess with defenses. And we'll see. I mean, I've been hopeful. It took me a long time to get them to start throwing to the tight end like I kept begging for. They finally started doing it, and Ben Sinnott thrived. And that's going to be something they'll continue to do with their new young tight ends. But I will be as interested as anyone to see what things they do with Avery Johnson to make defenses kind of stay off balance because he might run it on him, but more often than not, he's going to give it to someone else.
Once you get that playbook, you can send it to us.
Yeah, that's
I'll
we'll
stick it in the mail.
Yep. Another like football question. What is your perspective on sort of the power rankings, or not necessarily even like 1 through 16, but like the top tier teams from your perspective? Because I feel like Kansas State has to be among that. Utah has to be among that. But from there, Oklahoma State kind of, but like from your perspective, what are the teams that are towards the top of the conference? Because to me, it doesn't feel like there is a top dog. There's no Ohio State. There's no Michigan that is clearly the front runner. Where do you feel like the teams towards the top are? And if there's any teams towards the bottom that you're thinking of?
Well, this conference is going to be fascinating. I mean, it's going to be a mess. And it comes down to your schedule. Utah kind of caught an easy schedule. K-State's got a weird one. And I find it interesting. I've seen now 2 different odds on winning the Big 12 released, first by DraftKings, and it had K-State slightly higher than Utah. And FanDuel came out today, I think, and it's reversed. Utah is just a hair above. But right behind them in both of them are Kansas and Arizona. And K-State plays Kansas, of course, in Manhattan. Utah plays Arizona in Salt Lake City. So I think that's a big reason why they're favorites, is where they're playing the top teams in the conference. But look, if we thought that Big 12 football was chaotic last year, I mean, Colorado come in with the right game and beat anyone. It's just going to be a mess. I don't even want to relegate anyone to the bottom. Mm-hmm. And poor Oklahoma State. I wasn't overwhelmed by Oklahoma State last year. They just got hot at the right time.
And they got a dude that can tote the rock a bit.
Yeah. He's kind of helpful. I've been shocked by how low they are in the odds. They're kind of mid to bottom half of this conference. And I'm like, really?
Yeah, it feels like I don't know. I wouldn't want to put money on anybody in this conference because it doesn't, like I mentioned, like the difference between one and even like a team that's picked really towards the bottom, like Houston. I think they got a brand new good coach. He took Tulane to be pretty damn good. With the transfer portal and the city of Houston and the regional capacity you have to get guys that maybe they went to Troy or maybe they went to Boston College, but they're from Houston, and you can get them to transfer back close to home and all that kind of. Houston's going to be good. Like Arizona State, I don't know, they might be the quote worst, but they're still not a bad team when what they did kind of towards in the Pac-12. So it feels like the difference between 1 and like 12 is pretty much the same. There's not really one team that's separated a lot above the others. And if Cam Rising stays healthy, Utah is probably the best, but they haven't had to, like, the style of the Big 12 is different than the national perception of what the Big 12 is, because the Pac-12 the Pac-12 last year was what the Big 12 was in 2011, which is we're going to score 75 before you get to 50. And that's how we're going to win the game. Now it's Kansas State, Iowa State, Oklahoma State, teams that are going to like snap your neck. Like that's the goal. Utah hasn't played that. They were the physical bully in the Pac-12. They are now average physicality in the rest of the conference. And I don't think that they're necessary. Like it's the same thing with BYU. Now they have a little bit more talent than BYU usually, but BYU was the physical kid in the block last year or before they came to the Big 12. All right, do that for 9 games in a row. See how that goes. Like I'm so curious to see this football season because handicapping this race is going to be insane. I
know. I co-sign everything you just said. I think Utah's in for a little shock. They're pretty cocky coming in, and they should be. They've had some success, and you always believe in your team. But guys, this is a different league. This is a different environment. The whole culture of this conference is about college towns, just really hostile crowds. Well, what crowds in the Pac-12 have been really hostile?
Like at Oregon, maybe.
Yeah. I mean, there's no one at Cal or Stanford. USC, UCLA.
The stadiums Arizona. Are huge. Those stadiums are huge.
Maybe Washington.
Yeah, at Washington, at Oregon. Oregon State probably has a right to say they had a kind of pissed off hornet's nest. Wazoo, kind of, if they were good.
Agree. They're just going to be stunned by what they encounter in this conference, not just on the field. I had a Utah fan tweet me, well, we don't really want to travel in this conference. It's all a bunch of college towns, not cities like we like. Well, you're in a college conference. You should be going to college towns. That's kind of the idea here. I think at the end of the day, they're going to love the Big 12 because they're the most Big 12 equivalent fan base. They just think they're just such an outlier in the Pac-12. Everything about them, the way they play, their genuine college support they get from their fan base that looks more like a Big 12 institution. So they don't understand. They're coming into a lot of like institutions, but they're going to get beaten up. It's going to be physical. They're not going to be many Stanfords out there that have just fallen apart as a football program and they're going through the motions. Everyone's trying to win in this conference.
Am I wrong to want like the original Big 12 members to beat all the new, like whenever there's like a Arizona Kansas matchup, I'm gonna want Kansas to win. Am I wrong to?
You just had a Kansas State guy. You hope Kansas wins something
versus Arizona State. I feel like Tim.
Yeah, you know what? I think Lance Leipold's an incredible coach, and I love Jalen Daniels as a quarterback. It's hard not to like them. I like the way they play. They keep coming after you, and they beat Oklahoma, and we're all a fan of that.
That's right. That's true. But yeah, it feels like the Big 12 solidarity. There's got the Texas Tech, Oklahoma, or Texas Tech, Oklahoma State, Iowa State, Kansas State. A little bit of Baylor, toss them in there, but I don't really like Baylor all that much.
I'd be okay if they lost.
But like those kind of like the core five. It's sort of like siblings where you're like, we can talk shit to each other, but like you don't talk shit to Texas Tech. No. You leave them alone. They're one of us. You don't and like it feels like that's sort of the relationship like the core group has.
What I find interesting about this conference, and one of the things that made the Big 12 so unstable, was the fact that Texas constantly held it over everyone's head. And Texas blocked the addition of Louisville and Cincinnati when they brought in West Virginia and TCU because they didn't want to possibly lose control of the voting blocks and not be able to get whatever they want. The Big 12 now, the 8 remaining schools that include TCU and West Virginia that have only been in 10, 12 years, have now invited in 8 to go with the 8. And if you sway one school, let's pick West Virginia that has to travel to the Big 12 tournament. They could vote to move that thing to Las Vegas when the contract's up, because now the core Big 12 doesn't control enough votes to do whatever they want. So it's interesting, but I kind of appreciate that too. Let's as a conference do what's right for the entire conference, not what's right for one school.
Yeah, I agree.
But what about the Longhorn Network?
Oh, that's one of my favorite things. That and the Hallmark Channel. I love them both. I love them. A lot of sad stories on both of them.
Yeah. Last thing I've got for you, Tim, I had seen that you had, and I asked you this before the show, you had tweeted out something about, you'd retweeted someone that it's like, what's the wildest sports story that you know? You had brought up a potential bombing at a college football game. There it is.
Yeah.
Can you elaborate on that? I had never heard of this before.
2005, Kansas State's playing at Oklahoma. Now you ask your average K-State fan, they remember they had a first noise snap. What do you call it, Grant? When you snap on the first noise, they're backed up to their goal line and the punter doesn't show up. And someone says, "Where's the punter?" And they snap the ball through the back of the end zone. And that's what K-Staters remember. And Sean Snyder, the great special teams coach, looks over and his punter standing next to him. The coach in charge of this didn't notice that the punter was next to him. So that's what K-Staters remember from the game. But in the middle of the second quarter, late second quarter, there was an explosion. And
you were there.
We didn't know at the time exactly what it was. And someone in the press box, an OU media member who had been on assignment in Iraq prior to that, said that was a bomb. And we immediately verified it because from the end of the press box, the Oklahoma people were able to look out, and there was this dude that had accidentally set off his backpack bomb in the middle of the quad or whatever it is right outside the stadium, and he was still sitting there with no head. It just blown his head straight off. And other parts had gone everywhere, like the K-State band bus was covered in human matter because it was adjacent to that. But after the game, there was a lot of debriefing from the FBI about what had happened. And I was privy to a lot of that from someone I knew quite well involved. He had been caught on video trying to enter the stadium multiple times with the backpack. And this is before we started checking everything and we had electronic tickets. And yet the OU gate security would not let him in. They did their job perfectly and saved a lot of lives. But now the version of the story is he was just a troubled guy who committed suicide. Really, you build a bomb and you put it in a backpack and you take it to a football game so you can kill yourself. None of it makes sense. It has been really smothered. Keep in mind, we're coming 4 years off 9/11. Those wounds are still fresh. And they did not, this is what I was told, the FBI made it a point, we do not want to make people afraid to come to college football games because that would really disrupt the culture of the United States. And they're right about that. But also, right after that, we started more security, the searches, all that. But there's no doubt in my mind this guy was attempting to kill many people in a mass casualty event and screwed up by adjusting his backpack, apparently, and set it off. The end of the story is this. We're all convinced he was a bomber trying to kill multiple people. He's now has a memorial rock on the campus at OU as a student who died simply of suicide while attending.
Oh my
way.
Come on. read the room.
Holy smokes, man.
You know what? Even if it was just a suicide, the kid brought a bomb to campus. Sorry, you don't let him have a memorial stone.
No.
You tell the family, I'm sorry, the circumstances don't fit our criteria.
I mean, the fact that what's insane is that I had never heard that until I think Grant sent that tweet and be like, we got to talk about this when we get Tim on. Holy smokes. I mean, that story
It's
is
an incredible story. The question was, name something that isn't talked about enough from sports history. And I'm like, I got one for you.
Yeah.
That is not talked about near enough.
Yep.
Boy, that's also because Norman's not that far from Oklahoma City. And I think that's probably the other reason why you want to tamp that down, because I think if we're talking about the history of that town, there is sort of inextricably linked from something that happened earlier, which you would really prefer not to have exist. So sort of like asking people about the Branch Davidians in Waco, like you don't want to talk about it, but it's there. And so I'd imagine that has something to do with the fact that the OU people very much didn't want that to go out.
No. And David Boren did a masterful job of pulling all the strings as a former and very powerful U.S. Senator that became the OU president. He got it taken care of pretty well. They have sanitized a lot of the facts, or what was known at the time, from what I was getting from sources from FBI debriefings. And now that was never true. And I'm like, okay, yeah, okay, whatever. I don't know. It's an incredible story. I'd love to have a documentary on it. In fact, it's something I've wanted to do with my company, but now with my health and that's a battle for someone else. It's a great story though.
That's wild. Yeah. And what a way to cap our interview here with Tim Fitzgerald.
We'll be back on with funnier things. More
explosive ending.
No, we appreciate you coming back on though, Tim. It's always good to have you on, and this football season we'll be sure to reach out again, and it's always a joy to have you on. Good to see you. Good to see you're doing well as well.
Plugging away. Thanks for not having the crying man on. The guy didn't peek in the side doing this, and I'm like,
we had him on the week after the Kansas State game.
Yeah.
I got to tell you something. That was some of the most effective heckling I've ever seen.
Oh, it's great. Yeah. So great.
The coaches, there were like 4 or 5 games in a row of coaches who came into Hilton who got a technical.
It was 4 or 5 period against Iowa State. 4 out of 5 coaches in a. It
was amazing.
Technical. And Scott Drew got ejected. Like that. That's insane.
Well, and what's great too is I think the next game Iowa State had was they hosted Houston.
Yep.
And he was back. His name is John Swanson. He was back. He has season tickets. There was another technical, I think, called on Kelvin Sampson, and they panned to him, and he's in an aisle, just like eating a brat, just dancing
in an aisle, eating.
And then who was it? The announcer was like, "Alrighty then."
Ian Eagle goes, "Alrighty then." Yeah. Like pure Jim Carrey. I mean, it just
teed up perfectly.
He looks like him so much he could be a double for him.
Yeah. So that's been fun. He's kind of been our a secondary mascot, if you will, for the Clones this season. So. God. We appreciate your time with Tim. I know we told you a half hour and we're a little over that, but yeah, thank you again for jumping on with us. It's always
thanks for having me, guys. Anytime.
Of course.
Anytime. And Grant, if you get any case studies you want me to beat up, I can't actually beat them up, but I'll do what I can.
Send a nasty worded letter.
Yes, very terse.
That's great. Well, thanks, Tim. We appreciate it.
Man, what a bonkers story. We warned you going in. If you're still here, thank you. This is the longest episode we've ever done. 2, what a freaking story.
I had never heard that before.
I had neither.
That's wild. And that was, before obviously our playing days, but we were in high school. We're obviously
2005. I was a freshman.
Yeah.
I didn't process that at all.
Yeah, Aiden probably wasn't born.
I was 4.
So you
still pooping yourself?
Still pooping in diapers.
I still
pooping yourself every once in a while. You'll get the big boy sheet sometime.
Yeah, that was a fun interview. Tim he's always fun to have on. Always a great guy. Always in great spirits too. He's still battling cancer, and just you couldn't tell if you just looked at him. The way he talks and just his energy, and yeah, he's a great dude. One of the few Kansas State Wildcats that I can stand.
I'm not anti K-State, so
I'm very much so.
I'm glad to talk to him. That was fun. I was out last time because, like I said, our daughter was born like 3 days before that, so I was like, understandably, was missing that one.
Aiden and I held it down.
Yep, you guys did a great job.
So yeah, that was our Goldfinch Athletics interview of the week with Tim Fitzgerald. You got anything else?
No, I think we'll have some fun news coming shortly, but as far as Goldfinch Athletics is concerned, but we'll cross that bridge when we get there.
Yeah, sorry, we went a little long today. So thank you to all of our loyal listeners. If you are still listening, we're about an hour and 21 minutes into the podcast. And as always, don't forget, adopt, don't shop.